My best tip for paying your savings first is to set up an auto debit from your primary account into a separate savings or brokerage account within 48 hours of receiving your paycheck. That money needs to be removed from your primary account before you even have time to think about spending it. This video is full of practical tips just like that one. So if you want to know how to set a budget, how to make a plan for your money, and how to work towards achieving your financial goals, stick around because this video is for you. Hi everyone, I'm Sam. Thanks so much for tuning into our channel where we are all about achieving wealth and financial freedom through a three-part strategy. Earn more, spend less, and invest the rest. I'm really excited to be talking about budgeting today because your ability to save more than you earn is really at the heart of achieving financial independence. And you can't spend less without having a budget and sticking to it. In this video, I'm going to share with you the budgeting and saving practices that Chris and I have been using for the past 6 years. Now, this is going to be an in-depth tutorial, so if you want to skip around, just check out the chapters, which I will link in the description below. Let's dive in with step number 1, understanding the bigger picture. We're going to start by answering 2 key questions. Number 1, what are your goals? And number 2, what is your current spending versus earning situation? From there, we are going to be able to work backwards to close the gap between where you are now and where you want to be in the future. So let's talk about goals. I think that it's really important to talk about your goals first because sometimes budgeting and saving money can be really hard, and so it's important to keep our goals in mind so that we stay motivated. We have to keep that end game in sight. Let's head over to the handy dandy spreadsheet that we'll be working on today. I hope that seeing this practical example will help you build your own budget tracker. Right at the top, I put some goals. The first is a sustainable, consistent financial goal. The second is a goal that brings joy and motivation in the short term. And the third is a sample of a financial freedom/retirement number. Side note, you really should know what your retirement number is. And if you haven't started thinking about it yet, that's okay, but I really encourage you to start thinking about it sooner rather than later. My next video is going to be on this very topic, so if you're interested, make sure you subscribe and stay tuned. Now let's look at income versus spending. Let's start by looking at annual net income. Your net income is what you have to take home after all of your deductions. And it is super important that when you're setting a budget, you are looking at your net income and not your gross income, because your net income accurately represents the amount of money that you have control over. In this example, we have just over $80,000, which is roughly what a family living in Florida earning a gross income of $110,000 would take home after deductions. This number is going to vary depending on where you live and if you have to pay state income taxes, so make sure that you adjust this to meet your needs. In researching for this video, I found a great online calculator that you can use to estimate your net income, which I have also linked in the description. Okay, back to our spreadsheet. When you divide the net income of $80,000 by 12, you get the net monthly income of approximately $6,692. So this is the amount we're working with for our budget. Now let's move into the expenses section. You can see here that I have divided them into the categories of needs and wants. So this is reasonably straightforward. You just have to list down all of the things that you have to spend money on and all of the things that you like to spend money on. Now, if you are doing your own budget, I really encourage you to get as detailed as possible when you are listing out all of your expenses. You can break out your utilities into things like your water bill, your electricity bill. You can make notes for every single subscription you have to streaming services. You can also break out your personal items based on things that you would pretty regularly buy. The more detailed you are, the more accurate your budget is going to be. In order for your budget to be effective, you really have to know exactly what you spend and not just guess at it. When I first started budgeting, something that helped me so much was to keep a journal to track my expenses. And when I say track my expenses, I mean every single dollar, every single day. Of course, there are apps that can do this for you, but I personally recommend keeping a little notebook with you so that you can write down every time you spend money. It is going to take your personal accountability and your understanding of the amount of money you spend to the next level. And if you're new to budgeting, I recommend that you do this for at least 3 months in a row. Once you know exactly how much you are really spending, you can fill in the actual column and make note of any differences between what you've budgeted for and what you spent. I like to add some conditional formatting to these cells so that whenever I'm over budget, the number shows as red, and whenever I'm under budget, the number shows as green. This is so when these differences pop up, I can't pretend that I don't see them. Now we're on to step number 2, make a plan for your money. At this point, you're probably wondering, how should I distribute the amount of money that I spend on each category? So let's talk about the 50-30-20 rule, and this is a really popular rule of thumb for budgeting. It says that you should allocate 50% of your income for your needs, 30% for your wants, and 20% for your savings. And I think that this practice is good in theory, but in reality, meeting these ratios can sometimes be really hard or even impossible for a lot of families who are just getting started. I recommend using the 50-30-20 rule more as a guideline or even a goal if you are first starting out. Currently, you may be spending 80% or even more on your needs every month. And if this is the case for you, that means that you're in a position where you need to close that gap between where you are and where you want to be. But please don't be discouraged if this is true for you, because just knowing this information is the first step to improving your financial future. And remember, this is exactly where Chris and I were 6 years ago. And now we have reached a point where we are only spending about 15% on our needs and our wants combined. So this process really does work. Step 3, prioritize your savings. From now on, I want you to pay your savings first. And let me show you exactly what I mean by that. Okay, you're gonna notice that now there is a new addition to our spreadsheet in the form of a savings section at the bottom. Now, I'm putting a big red X on top of this because this shows you exactly what I do not want you to do. Instead of treating our savings as whatever is left over at the end of every month, we are going to put that money aside first, and we are going to use it to help guide us in terms of making decisions about what we can afford when it comes to our needs and what we are going to be willing to buy when it comes to our wants. We are going to be purposeful and proactive with the money that we put aside in order to grow our wealth. So we will delete this section, and then we will insert a new row right at the top of our needs section. In this example, we are going to meet our goal of committing $1,000 a month to that nest egg. And in order to make up for the new overage that you see, I'm going to reduce the budgeted amount for some items in the want section. Remember that tip from the beginning of the video? This is exactly where setting up an auto debit comes into play. Step number 4, now it's time to reduce your income to spending ratio. And there are 2 primary ways that you can do this. The first is to really evaluate the amount of money you're spending and to figure out ways that you can cut cost. Can you save money by making your coffee instead of buying it from Starbucks? Can you choose to buy a car that has a little bit lower monthly payments than the one that you currently have? Can you move to an apartment with slightly less rent? Remember, the money you don't spend isn't just $1 in your bank account. It is a seed that you can wisely invest, and then when you do that, it will compound and really help you to achieve your financial goals. The second way is to add new income streams beyond your 9-to-5 job. The more income you have, the easier it is to live below your means. And for me, those income streams typically fall under 2 categories. Passive income, which usually involves some sort of investment of money, and side hustles, which usually involve some investment of your time. Step number 5, it is time to implement your budget and stick to it consistently. So I think it's really important to set achievable goals so that you set yourself up for success. If I asked you to get to the top of a 30-story building, you wouldn't stand on the ground and try to get to the roof in one single leap. You would go into the stairwell and you would take it one step at a time. So I want you to think of your finances in the same way. Before you know it, you will start to see progress and you will be so excited because you are moving closer to achieving your goals. And this brings me to my final tip of the day, which is that we need to be consistent in order to be successful. So it's important to remember that we are human and we need to give ourselves little treats along the way so that we don't get so miserable that we just completely give up. Now, when I say treats, I am not talking about this.
3 words for you. Treat yourself. Treat yourself 2011. Once a year, Donna and I spend a day treating ourselves. What do we treat ourselves to?
Clothes.
Treat yourself.
Fragrances.
Treat yourself.
Massages.
Treat yourself.
Mimosas.
Treat yourself.
Fine leather goods.
Treat yourself.
It's the best day of the year.
The best day of the year.
What I am talking about are small treats along the way that are going to bring you joy and not completely derail all of the hard savings that you have been doing up until this point. Before I leave you, I want to ask you a question of the day. What budgeting tip will you actually apply to your financial plan? Let me know in the comments. All right, guys, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found this video useful. If you did, please let me know by hitting that like button, or better yet, helping us grow by subscribing to our channel. We would love to connect with you on our Facebook group, and you can follow us on Twitter. And as always, we love to hear from you in the comments. Remember, earn more, spend less, and invest the rest, and I will see you next time.